Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 56 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing very well.
That's good to hear.
Excited for podcast night.
It's podcast night. That's true. We get to drink good beers and talk about beers.
It's amazing. We're still doing it.
Yeah. 56 episodes in. Still going strong.
Yep.
So today we have one of our favorites type of episodes, I guess, a deep dive, where we kind of explore the history of a style. And today we're going to tackle Trappist and or Abbey ales.
Yes, and this idea actually was born out of me in the beer aisle, seeing like a couple of these doubles and triples, but actually wondering if it was like Dubel or Tripel, like I didn't know like how to actually pronounce it. So if you've ever seen those on the shelves or on a tap or something, it is just pronounced double and triple, like regular.
Nice.
But that's one of the things I learned, and I got home, I was like, I really need to look this up, and we really need to do a deep dive on these things. And I ended up realizing I knew literally nothing about these styles. So
yeah, I have a couple that I have enjoyed through the years that we'll cover, but other than that, I haven't really explored the style very much.
Yeah.
We learned a lot in our research that we're here to share today. But before we get into any of that, we have to do our favorite part of the podcast, and that's drinking beer. So
I agree. Best part.
That is the best part, yeah. So the way this works is I'll introduce my beer and give some nose notes before I pass it over to Steven to do the same, and then we both enjoy and give our tasting notes.
I've got a big beer tonight too.
Well, you're allowed to. It's not a school night.
Still.
You're nervous?
I'm gonna sleep good tonight.
All right. Well, I have one of the many beers that Steven delivered to me. I'm very excited because I've had this beer before, but I didn't drink it on the podcast. So it'll be first for me on the podcast. And this is Pinthouse Pizza's Electric Jellyfish.
An Austin, Texas staple.
Yes. You brought me a 4-pack probably like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like obsessed with it and sad when I drank the last one. So now I have more and I'm very excited.
It's very popular here.
I can see why. I like it. So it's probably going to be a thumbs up. It's a little bit of a spoiler. But this is a New England style IPA, and it's a hazy IPA, and it's 6.5%. And the can art is really cool. Also, this is the Pinthouse Pizza logo, Steven? This like skull and crossbones with the P.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. They're very like nautical themed.
Okay.
Yeah. Because even I think the can is very it's like coral reef or something, or what does it look like?
There's all these jellyfish, and it's kind of this like trippy, like psychedelic pattern, like where they're all kind of like all these jellyfish are floating away from them.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so it smells so good. A lot of tropical flavors, as you would expect on a New England style IPA, but orange, pineapple, mango, I dare say lychee. It just smells extremely fruity, and there's a little bit of the malt backbone there, and the beer is obviously hazy. It's pretty orangish, kind of orangish brown, pretty opaque with a serious head on it, like fluffy, like cloud head, and it is kind of lacy. So I'm excited to try this one. I gotta let this head settle down a little bit. All right, what are you drinking today, sir?
All right, so I am drinking Trillium. It is plane over car over train over boat. Quadruple IPA.
What?
It is 12%.
All right, you're not messing around.
I told you I did. I had a heavy beer tonight. This is 95 on Beer Advocate, so it just slips into the world class category. They use Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy hops in this. Of course, at very, very, very heavy amounts.
What is the genesis of this name?
I think it has something to do with the complex transportation web of Boston.
Okay.
It's a place where, at a short span on the Charles River, it's a place where a plane can fly over a train that rides over a car that drives over a boat.
That's awesome. What a cool call out.
Okay, this is crazy hazy. Super thick. Oh my gosh. I poured this quite a ways away from me, and I can smell it already. It smells like pineapple juice.
It looks thick.
Yeah, it is like orange juice with pulp, kind of thick.
Wow.
It smells like mangoes and orange juice, and definitely a little bit of pineapple. Pineapple was what I smelled like immediately when I poured it, but it's morphed more into like a very much orange juice aroma. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm excited to see how boozy this tastes.
Yeah. It's 12%, you said?
12%.
All right. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Okay. Yeah. I already knew I liked this one, but it's kind of like, so in the beginning it's grapefruit, tangerine, but it's not sweet at all. Just like the essence of. And then for a second, there's like a burst of sweet orange, but it's not like overpoweringly sweet. And then it kind of transitions into like the malt backbone, really like herbal, pine, grassy hops. And then it's creamy and kind of crisp at the same time. So yeah, it's just a really nice cascade of like the floral, the malt, the hops, and then kind of that has kind of a crisp finish. And then you just kind of want to take another sip right away. So a good beer and very enjoyable to drink. It's a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I think it ends up being it's a popular sort of gateway beer here to, like, even as much as New England IPAs are kind of a gateway in general to hoppier beers, this is like a gateway to the gateway.
I could definitely see that. It's really drinkable, but if you sit there and like take a sip and think about it, there is some complexity there, and there is like an entrance and a development and kind of a finish. So yeah, it's not like the craziest, most complex or best hazy IPA I've ever tasted, but it's just really nice to
it's very
come home
solid.
and drink one of these. Yeah, it's like
good. Very solid, very drinkable. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll go ahead and contrast that with mine.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's drinkable, but not to a palate that is not used to hops. This is a very heavily hopped beer. It is dripping with like pog juice flavors.
Oh, awesome.
Pineapple, orange, guava for sure. Mixed in with a little bit of like melon rind, cantaloupe. It is sticky. Very, very sticky. Like coats your mouth in this like sticky sort of resin. But it's a nice like creamy mouthfeel as well. Almost like you're getting a little bit of coconut in there too. So just this huge tropical feel with just like the slightest booze heat at the end. I mean, I don't think, no matter what you do, I don't know if you can hide the 12%. There's only one beer hoppy beer that hides the booze as well as unbelievably well, which is Pliny the Younger. That's the only hoppy beer I've ever, like, as high as ABV as it is, to not taste it at all. So there is like a little bit of booze heat at the end of this one, but that's to be expected. And it's not bad. It's good. It's like boozy pog juice. Boozy but not sweet pog juice.
Boozy but not sweet pog juice. That's a good description. And you said so there is definitely alcohol heat there, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not bad.
It doesn't turn you off.
No. And it can sometimes, especially in like Imperial IPAs, if they're too boozy. But no, this is not, like, there's so much other stuff going on that it's not distracting.
Nice. So
I just think it's like at some point it's hard to hide 12%.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like almost wine levels of alcohol.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, this is a Trillium Quadruple IPA. This is what I live for right here. In terms of like a new experience, trying something, world class. This is it. This is peak beer drinking for me, right?
Nice.
Yep.
Was that a Tavor pickup?
No,
Where'd you get this?
This is my buddy from work.
Excellent.
Who goes to Boston. So he's still going to get me some other stuff when he goes next time, but I gave him my other Pliny the Younger. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's a good trade.
Yeah. In fact, he came up to me the other day and he shook my hand. He was like that Pliny the Younger was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's really fun if you can get somebody that will appreciate it that much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
That's awesome.
It was really great, actually. I had another 2 coworkers that I gave Pliny the Elder.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, she's not she likes a lot of the sours and smoothie sours and stuff. She's not super into the hoppy stuff. And certainly doesn't have a whole lot of experience drinking West Coast IPAs. But she was super impressed by that beer. So
awesome.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, you drink the best.
I'm gonna convert her to West Coast IPA. Yeah.
When you drink the best version of something, it's a good turn on there to that style. So
that's fun. That's one of my favorite things is connecting people to new styles and new beers. So that's cool.
Definitely.
All right, so for our next segment is postscripts and beer news. Postscripts is when we fix things or return to items we said we'd return to in previous episodes. I don't think we have any today, but
no postscripts.
Okay, no postscripts. But Steve,
other than I have mentioned previously about 8 beer. It was a beer that Troy Aikman.
Oh, right.
Helped develop or whatever.
It's a light beer, right?
Yeah, it's a lager. It's an elite lager with organic ingredients or something. I don't know. But it's funny because I've been following them on Instagram, and they've been doing a lot of big release parties and stuff. And Troy Aikman, of course, is making the rounds. But a lot of them have been in Dallas. That's where the Cowboys are based, right? So that's where he was making a lot more of his appearances and stuff. So I was still surprised that I hadn't seen it in the store, but I finally saw it yesterday in my grocery store. So I got to pick some of that up and drink it on the podcast.
I think I said my only prediction is that it will end up on the bottom 250 list. But only because making beers that are lower calorie is very difficult. It's very difficult to make them taste great.
Flavorful, right. I agree. And then I told Jason I was going to surprise him with this one because it's just kind of some funny memories attached to this. So we've talked about how we don't like drinking beer out of a can. Right?
Correct.
You got to pour it out.
Yes.
But sometimes you don't have that option. So there is, and this is funny because it sounds like a paid ad, but we don't get paid for any of this. There's this product that I came across the other day called Draft Top, and it's just this kind of can opener thing, but you stick it on the top of the beer can and just spin it once, and it pops that whole top cap off the can, right?
Really? I already know where this is going.
He does remember. He does. Okay, so when we were in high school, we would go to lunch, and we'd usually both have a Pepsi that we would drink. And I don't know why we started doing this, but if you when you're done, if you turn the can upside down and you put it down on the concrete and you just grind it against the concrete, it wears down the seal that kind of goes over the top of the can. And if you wear that down enough, that can top will just pop off. And I don't know why we did it, but we just became obsessed.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. You don't remember, so I'm pretty sure why people did this at our high school was because
you can turn into it. Okay.
People use it as a spittoon.
Right.
Because a lot of people chewed. I don't know if that's still popular, but man, a lot of people, I feel like everyone dipped at our high school.
Yeah, it was.
And that was a convenient way to make a spittoon. But I also was just fascinated by the fact that you could, I don't know, it was just weird. You get to this point where you grind it down where the whole top of the can comes off, and it felt like some weird wizardry.
So I like this product because it pops the thing off, and then you can, it's more like drinking out of a.
Yeah, that's cool.
Glass.
Is it easy to do? It just whips it right off.
Yeah, you just stick it on, squeeze it, and spin, and it's supposedly gives you a nice smooth edge, so you're not gonna cut.
I was gonna say that sounds a little dangerous, but
yeah. So anyway, I thought that was a cool idea, just in terms of being able to drink a beer out of a can, but like not have to drink it through that small opening.
I think I would like that because I like holding the can, but the problem I have with the small opening is you don't really get you can't really smell the beer. But if you cut the whole top off, you could definitely smell it.
Yeah, exactly. But then it just reminded me of, we did like pretend we were cavemen or something.
Yeah, Ooga Booga, I think we called it. No, I did not do it. You started it.
I doubt that.
Yeah, but we would just sit there grinding. Well, I think it's because we're just grinding cans against like pavement, and I was like, "What are we doing? We're like making tools."
Yeah, we look like cavemen making tools, sharpening our tools against the concrete. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we would. Well, we didn't. Neither of us really did dip or anything like that. So we'd make our little. I don't know what we do with our little cans.
We just like spit in them and pretend we were cool. Pretend we were cool. Man, we were dumb in high school.
Yeah, it's okay. Everyone is.
Yeah. Now I see kids. I'm like, kids are dumb.
Yeah, they're dumb. It's not their fault, though. They have no context.
Yeah, that's true. And the prefrontal cortex is
it's not even done
severely underdeveloped. Yeah. A callback. I wanted to surprise you with that story because I knew for sure your eyes would light up. When
I passed the test. Those are simpler times. I would go back to those days when we our number one problem was grinding the top of a soda can off.
And like, man, this is taking forever.
We needed that device.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine what we'd think of that if we had that back then? Oh, it'd be so cool.
You should have thought of it.
I know. We were doing it the hard way.
My goodness.
Good memories.
Yeah, sorry for the listener who had to just sit through that.
Yeah, sorry. But we don't really care.
No.
Okay, so Trappist deep dive. Where should we start?
Well, I know one thing. Europeans are very, very possessive about their beer styles and where they're brewed and why they're called what they're called.
Is that what you learned today?
Yes. I was like, oh, this really again? This theme? Mm-hmm. So Trappist ales are ales brewed by Trappist abbeys.
Yes.
Fermented and bottle conditioned within the walls of the abbey.
After 1985, if you want to call yourself an authentic Trappist product, yes, those conditions need to be true.
And there are only how many?
I think 12.
So there are 12 abbey breweries that fall within this Trappist category.
11. Sorry.
Oh, 11. Okay. I know there was one that like lost their status because all the monks there left or something.
Yeah, that would do it.
So it's no longer being brewed by monks. And if all your monks leave or die or whatever, and you don't get new monks, then you're going to lose your Trappist identity.
You're not Trappist anymore.
You got to make sure you got like younger monks coming in from the minor leagues, you know?
Yes.
You got to backfill your monk rotation.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it's 11 now. 11 breweries only in the whole world that actually get to brew authentic Trappist styles.
Yes.
So this goes back to what, the 17th century?
I think 1660.
Okay. The Roman Catholic Church had this, 17th century rules start to loosen a little bit around the church, People don't want to be super fundamental anymore, And but there are some people who are like, oh, we're straying too far from the original observance of the church and all the rules. So there was this sect of the Roman Catholic Church whose whole purpose was to get back into more of a strict observance of the church rules and the fundamental laws of the church. So that order of the Cistercian, I think, is how we've decided it was pronounced.
Yeah, Cistercian, I think.
Cistercian. It was a Cistercian order of the strict observance, and they are the ones that brew these Trappist beers.
Yeah, so they're like a reformer movement of a larger movement. Because how did we agree to say it? Sister Shan rules basically said that monks have to be self-reliant and welcoming. So a lot of the monasteries started brewing beer because they could sell it to make money, which helped them with self-reliance, and they could be welcoming because people love drinking beer. So they have like a thing to entice people to come. And it said at their height, there was 600 monasteries across Europe making beer, which is pretty crazy.
Beer is like the ultimate resource. If you can drink it for calories if you need it.
Yes, and it was, especially at that time, it was safer to drink than water in some places.
Yeah. But you can also sell it if you need to sell it.
True. Yeah, so it's beautiful. So yeah, the Trappists were like, they're a reformer branch of that rule set, so they're even stricter, I believe.
So yeah, I think some of the rules around beer brewing is that it has to be made by monks, it has to be fermented and bottle conditioned within the walls of the abbey. You can sell it, but the money that you earn should go to the like financial, like just the upkeep of the abbey and anything above and beyond, just maintaining the abbey and maintaining the staff of the abbey and that kind of stuff should go to like charitable causes. In some ways, buying these beers is kind of like, what your money is going to. It's either going to sustain these abbeys or charitable causes other than that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, a bunch of tipsy monks.
Yeah.
So actually in our research, if we had done this episode before we did our beer destination or like beer experience bucket list, I have one to add now.
Yeah.
I want to go to one of these like 11 Trappist breweries because they look amazing in the pictures. Because it's like a monastery, so that looks cool. Like a lot of them have like stained glass and all that stuff. But then it's also a brewery. So they have like, all the stills and all the brewing equipment. So it's like, man, these are really, really interesting and unique places.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this great mix of like history and religion and beer and kind of like why beer ever was brewed in the first place. Because beer brewing has such a it's deep roots are really in the church, and monks and priests brewing beer to both sustain their religious activities, and like we said, it's a great resource. You can feed yourself or you can feed others with it. So.
Yeah, totally.
And people love it. So yeah, so it's this great like intersection of history, and I mean, I assume like their brewing equipment has to be fairly modern now.
Yeah, I don't know if they've like updated a lot of their stuff. I know
because like Chimay, I mean, they have like worldwide distribution.
Yeah, they must be.
I assume they're brewing at a fairly large scale.
Yeah, I would imagine they have expanded upon their historic capabilities. Yeah, that'd be definitely something to look into. We can postscript that to figure out how Chimay's making so much beer. Like how many monks are working there and how many brewing cycles are they doing?
Right. So that was a beer you used to drink, right?
Yeah, so there's two beers that so Chimay was like considered fancy beer. My dad, he likes beer, and every once in a while he'd be like, let's go get a fancy beer. And what he meant was we go to the grocery store and get a Chimay. Because way before there was craft beer widely available, like in grocery stores, I feel like there'd still be like Chimay there. So there'd be like all the regular macro beer, and then there'd be like a tiny little section of a couple bombers, and it'd be like Chimay, Arrogant Bastard, a couple other things. So yeah,
maybe some Sierra Nevada things or something.
Yeah, so I used to drink Chimay. I mean, before I even liked craft beer, I just knew Chimay was like fancy beer.
Yeah, your dad, I think, he likes these styles.
Yeah, so my dad, he's not like into all craft beer styles, but he loves, I would say,
like strong ale.
Yeah, that strong ales, Abbey ales. That he likes all that stuff a lot.
So you want to talk about what styles are?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting beer because, well, So I guess a little bit more history. So there were 600 monasteries at the height. And then I guess the French Revolution had a big impact on. So French Revolution and World War One and World War Two kind of disrupted. Like with every time we do a deep
Like it
dive.
always does.
Yes, it always messes everything up. So
Freaking
the
hell.
number fell, and then you have these 11 breweries that are still like traditional. But then you also had like, because the mystique of the Abbey beer, it kind of helps it sell because it's kind of cool. Like it's a beer made by monks. You had a lot of commercial breweries kind of like basically trying to front like they were making Abbey style beers, even though their monks weren't making it, but they were kind of like riding on the coattails of its popularity. And that's why you saw a lot of pressure. I think Chimay was one of the ones that was putting a lot of pressure on, like, can we get a rule like where you're not allowed to say you're a Trappist beer unless you're actually fulfilling those requirements. But see, you even had people going as far as like pairing up with monasteries to sell the beer, kind of like fronting like they were making it, but it was actually being made by a commercial producer. So a lot of weird like legal loopholes. Another thing we always come across in every deep dive. But then kind of so Abbey beer kind of got pushed away a little bit, but then it kind of, because of the World Wars and French Revolution and stuff like that, but then it kind of came back, and when it returned it did take on inspiration from like the locales from where it's at. So it's actually a pretty diverse style. There's a lot of variation between these beers, but generally some of the characteristics I knew and some I didn't. So I always knew that like these beers usually have yeast kind of like center stage. Usually like in an IPA you're usually focusing on the hops, but in this style you're focusing on yeast, and the hops are definitely there. Oh, one fun fact that I came across was that apparently basically Abbey Brewing, monistic brewing, was the first to use hops. At least they were the first ones to write down that you should put hops in beer, like hundreds of years ahead of it becoming popular. But they always used it for balance. It's never like they made the hops like front and center. But what's interesting about this style is that I didn't know is that they add sugar, a lot of sugar sometimes, because they're trying to boost up the gravity. And sometimes they use beet, sometimes they use caramelized syrup, but like that's something that's not common in other styles unless you're trying to really boost your gravity. But it seems to be pretty common across a lot of these styles where they just add sugar, like that's just part of it. So kind of interesting.
And you see that now. I don't know how much they did in this quadruple IPA that I'm drinking. I know they did heavy hop additions, but I know at least Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, they use some honey. They do use adjunct sugars to boost the gravity.
That makes sense. I think if you're trying to get to like 12%,
yeah, it's a way to get
a
to
little
boost that
assistance.
ABV. Yeah, boost that ABV without thickening the body too much. You can do it in a stout, right? You can do it with the grain bill because you can thicken up the body. But if you're doing it in an IPA, you want to keep the body thin with a higher ABV. So you're going to do that with adjunct sugars. So yeah, it's really interesting because you kind of have these three styles. Technically there is a single style, but you don't really see that too much. You see the double, triple, and quad. And what's interesting is that if you kind of think about the name, it's like you would think it would just sort of stepwise kind of go up in maybe color or strength, and it does tend to, I think, follow strength more than anything. But the double actually is a much darker beer. With that caramelized beet sugar, you're getting a lot of like dark fruit notes. So this is a dark brown beer with notes of raisins and prunes and dates and chocolate and caramel and nuttiness and maybe some like mild spice or coriander to it. So that's going to be your sort of classic double, but then you can go stronger to the triple, and that ends up being more of like a strong pale ale. And I don't know whether that was just because that was the popular style in the area which it was made. Is that what we determined?
Yeah, I think it was. I was trying to look up how to pronounce it, but Westmalle, I guess, is a monastery founded in 1794, and they're kind of credited for the ones to popularize golden color triples. I guess before they started doing it, a lot of them were brown, and they kind of think that Westmalle was the one that did this. They didn't invent it, but they started making it in that way, and it became very popular. And it's very strong. It's 9.5%, the version they make. Very spicy, estery yeast character. And then I guess the other thing that they're a little bit famous for is on a lot of higher ABV beers, the head will burn off really fast, but theirs is quite hoppy at 39 IBU, and those hops help the foam to kind of stay in the glass. So it's a pretty unique style of that triple, and it got very popular. And like you said, now triples are kind of usually golden, which is weird. I distinctly remember being surprised by that. Mm-hmm. And I'm almost not finally putting two and two together through today's deep dive. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I would just assume it was going to be dark, because it sounds like it's stronger and thicker, and like it's a double and this is a triple, and then quads, which is like the top level, are usually really dark. So it's super confusing because you go from brown to blonde to like brown black. Yeah. So.
But yeah, the quads, that's going to be a much richer, maltier beer, kind of a medium bitterness, and then high ABV. That's really going to be the characteristic. So I think you do see, as you go up double, triple, quad, you see strength increase. But like you said, it's interesting that it goes from brown to light to dark. It's a strange color variation, but you can kind of count on the strength going up as you go.
Yes. And then that kind of leads me into the other beer I drank a lot before I had any idea. I wasn't like super into craft beer yet, but there was a guy I worked with that was, and he was obsessed with Three Philosophers, which is a quad, and it's from Omegang. And it's actually interesting because they put Creek in it. It's 2% Creek.
So they're based in Cooperstown, New York, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
They were a brewery that I think they were founded by, anyway, their whole sort of mission was to create Belgian beers in the United States. Obviously they can't call themselves Trappist beers, but they're brewing a Belgian style.
Right, how they always get around it.
Three Philosophers. And I think it was just a sort of an idea to kind of create their own sort of thing by adding a little bit of their Creek to it. Sounds like
it's a fun spin on it.
Have you had that beer?
Not recently. I should get one and try it on the podcast. It's really easy to get. It's widely available. The problem is it's still, they haven't, actually, you know what? I take this back. I think I did see it in cans, which is exciting. But it was one of it was a pretty long, I'll have to double check, but they're tall cans. They're like the 16-ounce cans or whatever. But it's one of the ones that held out in a bottle for a really long time. So that's one of the only problems is you kind of have to commit. It's a lot to drink one of those. That's why I think my buddy used to split them with me. But yeah, if I can find one in like a tall can, because I think it's 9 or 10%, but that would be a more approachable amount.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's good. I
was gonna say it seems like a beer up your alley, right?
Yeah, it's cherry. In it. Yeah, it's just a hint of cherry.
Touch of cherry. Yeah. The other one that I've never had, but I think is popular is Brother Thelonious from North Coast.
Oh, you should try that. That's probably like.
That's a Belgian strong ale.
That's probably a
Belgian
really good
style Abbey ale. I
would say that's probably a good. It might be a little rough, but I almost want to call that like a gateway into the style. It's really good. I one of my friends, that was his favorite beer for like 4 or 5 years. He always would drink Brothers Thelonious. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm looking at the comments on that, and they're like, best beer ever.
It's very popular. That's a really popular beer.
That's great. I guess Boulevard has one. Boulevard from Kansas City, I think they're in. They do a lot of like sort of wild ales, a lot of saisons and stuff. But they do make a barrel-aged quad, of course, Belgian style. I guess Abbey ale. Abbey ale is the one that is the wording that they use, right?
I think that's how they're kind of getting around it.
You just can't say you're a Trappist ale.
You cannot say you're a Trappist. I think you can say you're a style, a Belgian style, an Abbey style. You could probably even say you're a Trappist style, but I don't think you can say you're a Trappist beer.
Gotcha. This one from Boulevard, they actually call it an American strong ale.
Okay.
So I think if you're listening to this and you're not sure what to look for, if you're not seeing the true Belgian Trappist beers like Chimay, Westmalle, but you see something like strong ale, dark ale, Belgian strong, Belgian dark, Belgian quad, those are going to be maybe not Trappist beers, but they're going to mimic the style.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up one of my absolute favorite. This is not my favorite style, but I think they brew this once a year, and I absolutely love it. It's 21st Amendment's Belgian style dark ale. It's called Monk's Blood.
Okay.
It's really good. They say it's a Belgian dark ale brewed with cinnamon, vanilla, oak chips, and I can't remember else what they put in it, but it's quite good. I think it's a really good place to start, especially because so I've actually also had the Rochefort. That's one of the 11 official Trappist breweries, and I actually learned something fun about them. They have, and this is true of a lot of the Trappist breweries, they call some of their beers, they'll just name them like it's the name, and then it's like 6, 8, and 12. And I didn't know what that meant, but apparently, at least in Rochefort's case, they're referring to the ABV. So they're referring to the original gravity number. So 1060 is 6, 1080 is 8, etc. So a little bit of decoding in the name.
In some ways it's kind of nice. It just follows the strength.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I know that actually is hard to find. I remember I had that, and I don't really like this style, so I didn't really like it. But I remember I was at a brewery in, it actually wasn't a brewery, it was like a brew house where they just had a bunch of stuff on tap, and they had a huge bottle list. And they had that, and I was like, oh, that's like that famous Trappist beer, and they get that. And I was like, oh, I don't like this style.
There's another popular one called St. Bernardus Brewery.
Okay, I've never had that one.
I've had their Christmas ale, but they have a ABT 12, I think. So they kind of use the number system as well for their beers. But yeah, some dark Belgian beers. But they're actually from Belgium, and they just I don't think they qualify as a Trappist brewery, but they're brewing Belgian style beers in Belgium. I think they were founded in in the 1940s, so they're a fairly new Belgian brewery. It's not not the ones that have been brewing continuously since the 17th century, which are the ones that I would want to visit if I was there.
Oh yeah, you want to visit the ones that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. Super cool.
The old Abbey ale, or the old monastery that has a gift shop that's open one day a week. You gotta be there the right day.
Yes, that's we discovered that in our research too. It's the Abbey of Sin Sixtus. I'm probably mispronouncing all this stuff, but it's 70 miles from the nearest Belgian city, and they make a beer that's highly sought after because one, you got to drive 70 miles to go there. Me and Steven, we would do that, right? Yeah. And apparently it's very easy to drive past. You can just miss it. And there's not signs guiding you. And then if you go, you have to hope that you go during the hours that their gift shop is open, which apparently is not very long. And then they'll only sell you one case of beer. That's it per person. That's the rules. So it's popular by its extreme exclusivity.
Like the Belgians knew all along that's how you that's how you create hype.
Yeah.
Just keep it exclusive.
Limit production. Artificially limit production. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Get on their Facebook page and complain about them not producing more of this beer.
I do not think they will care.
Year round.
Yeah. Well, apparently they have to pray 6 hours a day, so they don't have time to
check their Facebook comment.
No, they're not. I don't think they're on Facebook.
Well, I hope they have a lineup of younger monks coming in.
Otherwise, there's going to be 10 Trappist breweries.
Maybe I should put on my bucket list that I want to become a Trappist monk.
I don't think you want that on your bucket list. I think you got to take some oaths or something.
Probably.
Maybe they have a monk for a day program. You could do that.
A monk for a day. Oh my gosh.
I don't think you would.
Monk for a day.
I don't think your personality would mesh well with being a monk.
You've done like a extended silent retreat, right?
I did. I did a 10-day retreat.
10 days?
Yeah, and what's the worst part was, for whatever reason, I didn't calculate correctly. It's 12 days because the retreat.
There's like arrival day and a.
There's a arrival day and an exit day. So like, it feels like I can't even explain to you how like time can stretch into like infinity when you have literally nothing to do. And I remember I somehow discovered that I thought I was like closer to being done than I was, because I assumed the whole experience was 10 days. And like the horror of discovering that like I had 2 more days. But
oh my gosh. So no talking at all?
No, you could talk on the first day and the last day, but you weren't allowed to talk for 10 days. And you basically we're supposed to meditate basically from like 6 in the morning till like 10 at night.
Can you like whistle?
No, that would be frowned upon.
Okay, no whistling or like humming your favorite song?
No, you can't do that either. I mean, you probably could. They're not super strict, but there's a lot of like social pressure when everyone else is being silent to also be silent.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like this is self-sustaining.
You don't want to be the one guy.
Exactly. Yeah, I would.
I would just try to sleep as much as possible.
So I did sleep a lot. I feel like I caught up on my whole sleep because I could never make it
like
to
your whole life.
Yeah, I could never make it to like the early call, like 6 in the morning one. So I just sleep through that one. That was like the 6 to 8 call. So I just sleep into like 9. That's when like breakfast was, and then I would try to do the rest of the day. But yeah, highly recommend it. But it's not easy. It wasn't what I was expecting. Yeah, so that's why I know I don't want to be a monk. I was a monk for 10 days and it was enough.
I mean, do they have to be silent? That's not a thing?
No,
right?
I don't think Trappist monks have to be silent.
Right. Okay.
But I mean,
we also probably need to postscript what it takes to be a Trappist.
Yeah,
monk.
we should look into it. I'm sure you get to drink beer, I would assume.
Yeah.
So that's
I think
cool.
yeah. I'm gonna try to decide between 2 paths, either a Cicerone or a Trappist monk. I think
you should be a Cicerone.
they're my 2 goals. I don't know. I got to look at the requirements because maybe it's easier to become a Trappist monk.
I think your wife might have something to say about that.
Yeah, it'll be, oh, please go.
I'll buy you the ticket.
Yeah. Sounds like a great plan. She probably would go for the silent retreat thing, though.
It's tough to do if you're, like, once you have kids. I did it, like, in kind of pretty early after college because it's something I always wanted to do. But yeah, if you can sneak one in, I'd recommend it.
I don't think I'd whistle or something.
A lot of people left. Like, there's a huge attrition rate on like day 2 or 3. People are like, I absolutely can't do this.
Man,
so, yeah.
Weaklings. You wave to them?
No.
Your silent wave.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So, yeah, I was a monk for 10 days. A sort of monk, I guess. But yeah, so super interesting style. I think we covered it. I'm sure there's a lot we missed. We could probably go a lot more into it. But yeah, really cool, like, just intersection point between history and beer and religion.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I knew nothing about this style. I just knew that I would see these Belgian style ales every once in a while, and I really need to start kind of diving into that a little bit. There's like, I don't know, there's a lot of like strong ales, like barley wines and stuff like that are kind of sort of really old school styles that are kind of malty, but also like high, there's this like level of hoppiness and bitterness to them, but also high ABV. There's kind of this whole world of strong ales and Belgian triples and quads that I just have not even dabbled in at all. So, have you had Chimay? No, never.
Maybe you should get it. I would recommend. Well, Chimay is probably a good one. If you can find Monk's Blood, get Monk's Blood. Brothers Thelonious, you should do that one. And Three Philosophers. Those are all the ones I have experience with.
Yeah, Brothers Thelonious is a lot easier to get when I was in California. I think it's. They like always had it at Costco.
Yeah, it's everywhere out here, but I think that's because Is it North Coast?
Yeah, it's North Coast,
Yeah,
so it's
okay.
Northern California. But yeah, I could probably get some like Omegang Three Philosophers or
See if you can find it in a can.
okay. I mean, the nice thing about like Total Wine is usually have a pretty good like Belgian selection, like of beers from Belgium.
They do. They have a really good import.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get, I would bet they would have at least one or two, maybe more of the 11 that are actually Trappist. Because I want to say they have Rochefort there, and they'll definitely have Chimay. Yeah, that'd be a good place to go. I did see, I guess this is a tangential. I should have saved this for beer news, but I did see a post on the beer subreddit just blasting Total Wine for having older beer. So I think we always praise Total Wine because they have a really deep selection, but I think part of the downside to having such a deep bench is that some of the stuff does sit there for a while. So always for certain styles, you're going to definitely want to check your brew date or bottle date if it's available. But for this style, these age incredibly well. So
who cares?
Do not be afraid to get a Trappist ale or a triple or a dark Belgian. Those are they do fine aging. So even recommend aging for some of them. So
the other thing I don't always love about Total Wine is that like everything, even all their IPAs and stuff, are just sitting on a regular shelf.
Yeah, they don't refrigerate.
Not refrigerated, which the beer snob in me is like...
Yeah, if you're a true beer snob, you got to be careful with that stuff for certain styles, I think.
Sours and stouts, nobody cares.
But yeah, sour stouts, all these other styles, it's fine. As long as they didn't get really, really warm, which hopefully they didn't. But if they're sitting at room temperature, it's probably fine.
Well, that's cool. This is actually kind of I always love these deep dives because I learned something about a beer that I never knew.
And then it always makes you want to drink a bunch of those beers from that style.
I know. I'm kind of sad. I really did. I sort of stood in the grocery aisle and looked at the Chimay, but it was a big bottle of Chimay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can get a smaller bottle of it. It was a big bottle and it was like $25 or something.
Yeah, it's expensive because I remember even when I was drinking it way back when with my dad, I feel like it was like, I want to say it was like $12 or $15 back then, and this is like 20 years ago at this point, maybe more. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised it's $25 now.
Yeah, so I will find a smaller bottle of that and drink it because I need to get into that style. I need to get in all the styles.
Yeah, new styles. That's your 2022 resolution.
I was always impressed by like band teachers that like essentially could play every instrument.
Yeah,
maybe not at a high level, but they could play every instrument. I feel like I should be that person if I'm a beer podcaster.
Yeah, a little dabble in every style.
Yeah, there are styles I haven't even dabbled in. Not even dabbled.
It's true.
Sad.
All right, 3 new styles this year, Steven.
Barley wines.
Barley wine has been on your list for a long time since we started the podcast.
I'll get there, okay?
Yes. And then
when you have a Trillium Quadruple IPA in your fridge, that's what you drink, okay?
That's a good point.
I had a hard time picking anything but the Trillium.
Fair enough.
But I do have that 25th anniversary Firestone Ale in my fridge. That's like a weird combination of like Parabola and Merkin, and it's crazy. And a barley wine, and yeah.
I'll have to look in my fridge. I think I have not the 25th anniversary, but I have one of the ones where they mixed them all together. But it's of indeterminate age because I inherited it during one of my moves.
Oh.
But I bet it's still good. It's been refrigerated ever since. Maybe we'll have to drink those together.
Yeah.
Let me do some fridge research.
On like a Friday night.
We'll record on a Friday. Yeah.
So that you don't have to work the next day.
I know. It needs to be not a school night for both of us. All right, should we wrap? Is that an episode? I think that's an episode.
Yeah.
All right, well, if you want to reach us, we're available at contact.attenuation@gmail.com, or probably easier just to follow us on Instagram at attenuation.podcast. This has been episode 56 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
That's me.
And we are saying cheers. Drink some good beers this week, and we'll see you next week for episode 57.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation, a Beer Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers!